To understand the basic difference between the fixed effects and the random effects model, we must look at the underlying assumptions of these models. We discussed the fixed effects model in the previous tutorials. Here, let us first look at its underlying assumptions. A fixed effects within model with unobserved individual specific effects can be stated as shown here. We will use this model to illustrate the assumptions of both fixed and random effects. It is important to note here that we can use this same specification for a random effects model with individual specific effects as well. Although the statement of the models is the same, the estimation of fixed and random effects are vastly different. The first basic assumption of the fixed effects model is that of a random sample, that is, the sample of cross-sectional units must be randomly selected. The second assumption states that the independent variables must change over time and there are no perfect linear relationships or perfect multicollinearity among the independent variables. This is also the reason why we cannot include time-invariant variables in a fixed effects model. They lead to perfect multicollinearity in the model because they are perfectly correlated with the unobserved effects. The third assumption of strict exogeneity is essential, which states that the expected value of the idiosyncratic error epsilon-it is 0, given the independent variables and the unobserved effects. This means that the idiosyncratic error epsilon is not correlated with any of the independent variables or the unobserved effects mu-I. Under these three assumptions, the fixed effects estimator is unbiased and consistent. Now, let us add two more assumptions to this fixed effects model. We assume that the variance of the idiosyncratic error is homoscedastic. It is equal to sigma epsilon square and is not correlated with the independent variables or the unobserved effects. Finally, we assume that there is no serial correlation in the idiosyncratic error. Given the independent variables and the unobserved effects, the idiosyncratic error is independent or uncorrelated with its values from other time periods. With all of the 5 assumptions we stated, the fixed effects model is the best linear, unbiased estimator. If we were to estimate the earlier model using random effects, then the unobserved effects mu-I are estimated as random errors along with the idiosyncratic error. Hence, we have to make some additional assumptions in the random effects model. Furthermore, these assumptions will make the difference between the fixed and random effects clear. The first assumption of random sample across cross-sectional units is the same as in the fixed effects model. The second assumption is slightly different for the random effects model. It states that there are no perfect linear relationships among the independent variables. However, unlike the fixed effects, we can include time-invariant variables in the random effects model. This is possible due to additional assumptions that we will discuss next and a different estimation procedure of random effects model which we will discuss later in this tutorial. Third, fourth and fifth assumptions of strict exogeneity, homoscedasticity and no serial correlation of the idiosyncratic error epsilon are the same as in the fixed effects model. That is, the idiosyncratic error epsilon is uncorrelated with the independent variables and the unobserved effects. The variance of idiosyncratic error is uncorrelated with the independent variables and the unobserved effects. Finally, there is no serial correlation of the error epsilon given the independent variables and the unobserved effects. These assumptions are similar to the ones in the fixed effects model, except a slight difference in the second assumption. Since we are including time-invariant variables according to the second assumption of random effects, we have to make 2 additional assumptions about the unobserved effects mu-I and the independent variables. These are necessary to allow us to include time-invariant variables, which was not possible in the fixed effects model due to perfect multicollinearity. We assume that the expected value of the unobserved effects is constant, given the independent variables. This implies that the unobserved effects are not correlated with any of the independent variables. Since they are uncorrelated, we can include time-invariant independent variables without causing perfect linear relationship or multicollinearity with the unobserved effects. Hence, this additional assumption differentiates the fixed and random effects models. Furthermore, it is important to note that we do not assume the expected value to be 0. We allow it to be a non-zero constant, given the independent variables. Finally, we assume that the variance of unobserved effects or random error μi is homoscedastic. Therefore, the variance of unobserved effects is constant given the independent variables. Under these 7 assumptions, the random effects model is consistent, asymptotically normal and asymptotically efficient. Moreover, for the coefficients of time-varying independent variables that are also estimated in the fixed effects model, the random effects model is more efficient as compared to fixed effects when all the assumptions are satisfied. Hence, we usually prefer random effects when the unobserved effects are uncorrelated with the independent variables. Moreover, they allow us to include time-invariant variables. On the other hand, we prefer fixed effects if the unobserved effects are correlated with the independent variables. This is because the fixed effects estimator is robust to this correlation while the random effects model becomes inconsistent if unobserved effects μi are correlated with the independent variables. Now, let us illustrate the estimation procedure of the random effects model. We can use feasible generalized least squares, that is, a GLS type of transformation with weights to estimate the random effects model and its coefficients. Additionally, we can also use MLE or the Maximum Likelihood Estimator to obtain the coefficients. Here, we will first discuss the FGLS approach in detail and later introduce the likelihood function for the random effects MLE model. We can specify a random effects model with both individual and time-specific effects as shown in equation 1. The term μi represents the individual specific effects, gamma t is the time-specific effects, and epsilon it is the idiosyncratic error. For illustration, however, we will consider a random effects model with only individual specific effects. That is, our model will have an idiosyncratic error and the random error μi as shown in equation 2 here. The idiosyncratic error is identically and independently distributed with zero mean and sigma epsilon square variance. Moreover, the individual specific random error μi will also be identically and independently distributed with zero mean and sigma mu square variance. These will automatically be true if the assumptions of the random effects models are fulfilled. When we apply FGLS, we transform the variables in the model using certain weights. In case of the random effects model, the GLS transformation of the variables is carried out using the weights theta. In the formula shown in 3, any variable q is transformed using theta. In our model, this q will be the dependent variable y and the independent variables in x. The term in the brackets is simply the mean of the variable for individual unit I over time. For every individual unit I, we take the sum of the variable over all time periods and divide by the total number of time periods we have for that individual unit. This is similar to the time-demeaning procedure we performed in the fixed effects within model, except that it is known as quasi-time demeaning because of the weights theta. The weights theta, on the other hand, are a function of the variance of the idiosyncratic error given by sigma epsilon square and the variance of the unobserved effects sigma mu square as shown in equation 4. However, we do not know the variances of the random unobserved effects error or idiosyncratic error beforehand. As a result, we do not know the weights theta beforehand. We must first estimate these variances and weights, which we will discuss shortly. The quasi-time demeaning of all the variables in our model with the weights theta gives us equation 5 shown here. The estimation of the random effects model with FGLS or GLS transformation can be carried out by applying OLS to this quasi-time demeaned equation. Furthermore, this equation reduces down to a basic pooled OLS or a fixed effects within estimator under specific situations. Suppose the unobserved effects μi are irrelevant or 0 and the variance sigma mu square is 0. In such a situation, the weights theta end up being equal to 0. Then, the equation 5 automatically simplifies to a pooled OLS model as shown in equation 6. This happens because the μi are irrelevant, so the variance of random error μi and the weights theta are 0. This also makes sense because if the unobserved effects are irrelevant, then we don't need random effects and we can use the pooled OLS model. Suppose the term t multiplied by sigma mu square in the theta formula approaches infinity. This is opposite to the earlier situation where sigma mu square was 0. In this situation, the weights theta become 1 because the terms under square root approach 0. If we substitute theta equals 1 in equation 5, you will notice that equation 5 becomes a fixed effects within estimator as we can see in the equation 7. Therefore, the random effects model reduces down to a simple pooled OLS if theta is 0 and it becomes a fixed effects within estimator if theta is 1. As discussed earlier, we need to estimate the weights theta before estimating the random effects model. Theta is a function of the variance of random unobserved effects and the variance of the idiosyncratic error, which we do not know beforehand. Therefore, we must estimate the variances sigma mu square and sigma epsilon square to determine the weights theta. There are several methods available for estimating these variances. Some of the most commonly used ones are the Swamy-Arora, Amamiya and Walhus methods, which are readily available in most software packages. Here, we will illustrate one of the Swamy-Arora methods that is commonly used to determine the variances in the random effects model. We use the within and between estimators to obtain these variances. First, let us take a look at the formula for estimating the variance of idiosyncratic error sigma epsilon square. In the formula shown in 8, sigma epsilon square is estimated with the help of the fixed effects within estimator. The error EIT in this formula is the idiosyncratic error from the within estimator shown in equation 9 and 10. Why does this make sense? Remember that the within estimator uses within transformation or time demeaning to eliminate the unobserved effects and estimate the beta coefficients. Hence, the unobserved effects have been eliminated from this within model in equation 9 and what we have left is the idiosyncratic error EIT obtained in equation 10. The within estimator conveniently removes the unobserved effects so we can estimate the variance of the idiosyncratic error sigma epsilon square cap using our formula. This sigma epsilon square cap is an unbiased estimator of the true variance sigma epsilon square. Now that we have the estimated variance sigma epsilon square cap, we can use it to estimate the variance of the random unobserved effects or sigma mu square cap. Here, we utilize the between estimator to obtain this estimated variance as shown in the formula in equation 11. The alpha b cap and beta b cap coefficients in this formula are obtained from the between estimator shown in equation 12. You will notice in equation 13 that this between estimator equation is a function for both the unobserved effects mu I and the idiosyncratic error epsilon I bar. Therefore, we use this combined error from the between model in equation 11. We make degree of freedom adjustments and when we subtract the estimated variance of idiosyncratic error from this overall variance of combined error from between model, we are left with the variance of the random unobserved effects or sigma mu square cap. The sigma mu square cap estimated this way is also an unbiased estimator of sigma mu square. You will also notice the function max used in equation 11. This is essential to prevent the estimated variance from being negative. A negative variance is a possibility when we estimate it using this method, but a negative variance does not make sense. Therefore, we simply take the variance as 0 if it comes out to be negative. Practically, this is not a problem because we get a negative estimated variance for sigma mu square only in extreme situations where the random unobserved effects mu I are completely irrelevant. In such a case, it is better to apply the pooled OLS model anyway. Hence, we have estimated both sigma epsilon square cap and sigma mu square cap that we need to determine the weights. As a result, we can plug in these variances in theta, use the weights theta in equation 5, apply OLS to equation 5 and estimate the random effects coefficients. Earlier, we also mentioned that the random effects model can be estimated using the Maximum Likelihood Estimator. For random effects using MLE, the log likelihood function for each unit I can be defined as shown in equation 14. We maximize the log likelihood with respect to the unknowns beta, sigma epsilon square and sigma mu square to obtain the maximum likelihood estimates of the coefficients. In a balanced panel, the estimated coefficients from this MLE are similar to the random effects coefficients from the FGLS method we estimated earlier. However, their results may be different in case of unbalanced panels or when the number of cross-sectional units are low. Generally, the FGLS approach is used to estimate the random effects model and not the maximum likelihood estimator. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.